I'm Susanna Cluff-Clyburne, and I'm the Senior Director of Parliamentary Affairs at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and I also hold the small and medium business file here. Joining me is Shawn Lester, and Shawn is a partner with the accounting firm Lester Landau, and Shawn's firm has offices in Iqaluit, where he's joining us today, but also in Rankin Inlet in Nunavut. Shawn sits on the Canadian Chamber of Commerce's Board of Directors, and he's also the chair of our Territorial Policy Committee. Shawn, thanks very much for taking the time to speak with me today.
No, you're welcome.
You bring the perspective of the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on small businesses as an entrepreneur yourself, but you're an entrepreneur that also serves entrepreneurs. So we're really interested to get your perspective. Can you tell me a little bit about your firm and who your clients are?
Well, we're the only CPA firm who operates in Nunavut from Nunavut, and we look after clients from the smallest store, hairdresser, all the way up to government-related organizations. So we get a pretty good cross-section of what's going on in Nunavut. For our firm ourselves, we do, about this time of year, we normally have about 2,400 personal tax returns done, and we're about 900 behind. And for our other part of our business, May is actually our busiest month of the entire year, and we're only hitting about 44% of what we would normally do in May. So that's our firm ourselves. And our clients, we've had lots of different, being involved in the chamber up here as well, I've also heard lots of little stories and anecdotes, and the comments that I'm getting are things like good announcements, but nothing's flowing. We can't really take on any more debt. One guy said if government would get out of the way and let us just work, we'd be able to recover. So there's a lot of different takes on it. Now, in some respects, Nunavut's a little bit isolated, so some of us haven't felt the same effect. But on the other hand, this allowed us from accessing some of the funding, because we're not completely shut down, but we're doing some work. And we're doing just enough in some cases to lock us out of some of the, so it's kind of a mixed bag.
What about the impact on your client base in terms of the closing down of the economy, and are things starting to reopen at all in Nunavut? Are you hearing anything about things starting to get back into gear?
Yes, yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. No, Monday. Yeah, that was yesterday.
That'd be yesterday.
I lose track of the days.
Yeah, that'd be June 1st.
They just announced that starting next Monday, businesses, if they've done their risk assessment and meet the Workers' Safety Commission's criteria, they will be able to start opening up. And then a week later, some other things will be able to open up on a restricted basis. So that's news as of yesterday. So yeah, we've had to build a wall and put glass in and spend $25 for hand sanitizer jugs that used to cost 10.
Yeah.
A few things like that.
Yeah. Who do you think's been hardest hit in terms of the business community in Nunavut?
I would say the micro businesses. They were basically forced to shut down. And even if they were able to access the CERB $2,000 a month doesn't get you very far in Nunavut.
No, no. No, and I think if you said a bit earlier that the actual, for people that have actually applied for some of the support programs, the actual delivery has been quite slow.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also have a challenge with a lot of businesses here that are in the smaller end are not necessarily up to date on their record keeping, and that, you know, the kind of thing, they might keep it all together and then once or twice a year they get it all done all at once.
Yeah.
Have the records in place to be able to apply for some of the programs.
Yeah, and just judging by the technical differences that I'm experiencing in communicating with you today, I'm wondering how remote working, you know, there's obviously a lot of government in Iqaluit. How has the remote working scenario been going for yourself and for your business, as well as for others in your client base?
We've been able to remote work well, mostly because Nunavut's 25 isolated communities. So generally we're used to a lot of remote work anyways.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is it's very slow and inconsistent. But we went from a fixed bandwidth that was slow and inconsistent to a lot more people trying to go through that same fixed bandwidth. So
Yeah.
You and I are having the delays today. I'm helping out with that support service, the business resilience support service, and there's
Yes.
one website that I just can't get on because the time delay kicks it out. So if I get a question on that, I have to pass it up the line just to be able, because I can't get into the website.
Yeah. What's been the outreach to you as your role as one of the business resilience service advisors? Have you been getting a lot of outreach from the business community?
The stats that I've looked at this morning was last week, it was pretty good right at the beginning, and then it's kind of dwindled off. So we're hoping that there'll be another announcement and there'll be more getting that toll-free number out to the public.
Yeah.
To keep it going.
Yeah, that's consistent with the first report that we got back, that there really needs to be a bit more communication of the availability of the service. I wanted to ask you about recovery and what you think recovery should look like, and what you think business and the government should be looking at. We're starting to see, even in Nunavut, a bit of reopening. But what should we be thinking about as we look to actually recovering from all of this, in your perspective?
We do this kind of analysis in our own situation whenever something happens. We do what we call the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that needs to be done, an analysis of what was done well, what was average, what wasn't done well at all, and learn from that. And then those things that were done well, the systems that have been put in place, a lot of them I think should be kept in place, kind of as that disaster recovery plan that all business should have. This just becomes kind of Canada's disaster recovery plan, or a basis for it.
Yeah.
And I think the other part is not only each province in that, but create it more Canada-wide. I think we've seen through different things that Canada can do things well when Canada works together. And to be able to have that just as the framework and the backbone going forward and knowing that it's there. I think another thing would be, we've had different definitions of essential services. And then we find out that a lot of our essential services aren't doing so well because poor pay, poor support, inconsistent regulations and that. And I think that would be better if that was somehow unified and more well established across Canada. And like, even, I know this is a little bit on the selfish side, but in Nunavut, public accounting isn't considered an essential service, which is fine. But you know, pretty much every other jurisdiction, public accounting is.
Yeah. And given the time of year all of this has happened, you'd kind of think you might be kind of essential. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, when I asked if taxation preparation services were essential, the answer came back no.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it's to get more of a consistency and have it. And I'm thinking more on the healthcare side when I talk essential services. I was not myself. But then we also know that coming out of this and going forward, somebody's going to have to pay for it all.
Yeah.
And so I think we've talked about a full revamping of the taxation system and looking at it. I personally think this would be a great time to do it because we're going to have to be adjusting taxation anyways, one way or another.
Yes.
So that might be a good excuse to go ahead and do a look at the tax system. And then the other thing that I'm getting from up here is to boost the economy. There's really three things that come to mind is infrastructure projects. Like, for example, and I'm quite happy with it, the government of Nunavut is going ahead with their construction this summer, which is $600 million worth of construction. That would have just dried up, been gone because of our sea lift season here. And another one is, the other two are tied. One is internet and other technologies like that. But for here would be the consistent internet. So like a fiber link. That I think that agenda of bringing fiber to Canada in the remote and rural areas, that agenda should really be pushed up sooner. Because that would be a game changer in a lot of places. Yeah. Including Nunavut.
Yes, I would say especially Nunavut. For sure, for sure. Yeah, well, clearly you've been reading our Roadmap to Recovery document, which is going to be released in a couple of days. Shawn, I thank you a lot for your...
What's interesting
Sorry,
was...
Go ahead.
Actually, what's interesting was I actually had written all that down and made my thoughts, and then I read the draft recovery roadmap to recovery, and I thought, hey, I'm not far off.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, you're not on our board for nothing, Shawn. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. These perspectives of individual entrepreneurs are so important because we tend to look at things at such a high level, the impact on the entrepreneurial community writ large. So it's really important to have voices like yours telling us, what the effect is on you and the people that you serve. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure.